unidentified anomalous phenomenon. That is such an absolutely difficult word to say, but UAPs. All across all social media and every news channel, they are talking about UAPs. And it is breaking news all over the place that the government may be telling us the truth for once, that there is aliens amongst us. And I have a question for you. What would you trust more? Would you trust Congress, a crackhead on the side of the street, or a squirrel? Which one out of the three would you have your most trust in? Nobody picked the government. Nobody picked Congress. Everybody said the squirrel. Now, that being said, you have to ask yourself, why is the government talking about UAPs and why did they push this across all mainstream media? We know those guys aren't trustworthy either, so why are we being told this? Why are we being told that there's UAPs all over the place? Is it to normalize us? Is it to warn us of something? Or are they just being honest for once? Now, I know what I'm about to say may sound pretty bizarre to some people, but these UAPs, these aliens that everybody has always talked about, they really are the Jinn. See, space is very monitored for multiple different reasons. One is a security thing. They want to monitor space because of asteroids. They want to know if an asteroid's coming to Earth and will it harm us? Can we get out of the way? Or are we going to be destroyed like the dinosaurs? And then the other reasons why it's monitored is because we're trying to discover new things. We're trying to see all the creations of Allah, in other words. We're trying to see all these other planets and all the things going on around us. And because it's so monitored, it's really hard for me to believe that there's aliens visiting Earth. And that is very difficult for me to admit. It really is. I've dug really hard trying to find evidence of aliens my whole entire life. I even have something to show you. You may not be able to see this very well, but this tattoo on my forearm, this guy right here, is literally an alien. So if there's anybody out there that wants aliens to be real, it is me. I promise. I have dug high and low to try to find any kind of substantial evidence to find that aliens are coming to our planet and visiting us. Now, although that is true that I've never been able to really discover evidence of aliens visiting us, I have found something a little weird, and it's in the ocean. Now, I'm sure some of you guys have seen, but in this UAP talk, it's this guy coming into Congress testifying, saying that they are coming in and out of the ocean, that they've tracked and monitored, and they have evidence of these things going into the ocean at 500 knots or however fast it is. It's just unbelievable speeds that we can't match ourselves. And that is where it starts to make a lot more sense. It makes a lot more sense because the government talks all the time how, oh, we can't get to the bottom of the ocean, it's not possible, this, and this, and that's all a lie. It is very more than possible for us to explore the bottom of the ocean. It's bizarre for them to even continue to state that. Maybe back in the 1920s that was believable, but not in today. We can submerge a hunk of concrete with sensors embedded into it and just drop it into the water, and it can give us all the information that we need. It's not that complicated, and we have all the technology, and we've had the technology for quite some time. And on top of that, we've been doing a lot of nuclear testing inside of the ocean, which makes things kind of weirder. In other words, the government and the elites have been playing around in this water, and they're not telling us what's under there. They're not being honest to us. I know it's a shocker the government lied again, but this is the situation. Now, this conversation right here, this entire conversation right here was one of the things that kind of blew my mind when I first got into Islam and started studying the faith, because we have text, we have evidence that talks about how Iblis, Satan, the devil, has a throne on water, that he submerges himself in the water. There's a couple different translations, but in other words, Iblis is involved in the ocean. In that the jinn that are the most dangerous to him, he keeps close. So this tells us quite a few things about this whole situation and why they're telling us it's aliens. And I'll get to exactly why in a minute. After I explain a couple things, it's going to make a lot of sense. First of all, the government is aware of all this and they're just hiding it from us. But then we have to ask ourselves a couple questions. The question isn't if these things are real or not, because we know that. We know these things are real. We know there's these things that exist that are not being explained to us or not being completely described to us honestly. The question is, what is the government's relationship with these things? That's the more important question for me, which also kind of holds some credence to the theory that the elites of this world are working with some jinn. We know with the Kabbalah what they're doing, but this kind of starts to make it make sense. It adds another piece to the puzzle. But let's back this up a little bit. Let's look historically for a moment and see how this would play out. Imagine if the government and Congress put out newspapers or some kind of article and told people like, hey, this is happening, we have record of this, we have evidence of this. And it's a public thing and it's told everywhere and said, hey, there's these things, we don't know what they are, but they're moving around really fast and they're going into the ocean. Think about this in the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, even the early 1900s, how people would react and what they would think it was. Not a single one would say alien. Whenever you look historically, nobody has ever talked about aliens from another planet. That was never a thing. Something like this would have always been described as spiritual. Everybody would have been like, oh, this is Jinn. It would have been a no-brainer for everybody. Everybody from the past, when people were a lot more religious and there wasn't so many atheists running around, it would have been completely obvious to them. They would have been like, look, this is a ghost, this is a spirit, this is a Jinn, this is a demon. There was plenty of different ways to explain this. And what's very fascinating about this whole situation is there's nothing that points to it being from another planet. So if it's on this planet and we can't really see them, we can't really interact with them, but we see them sometimes under certain situations, this all points to Jinn. This all points to ghosts, demons, spirits, however you want to label it, it doesn't matter to me, but it's all the same thing. And on top of that, we know the Jinn try to stay in places away from humans. That's why we know they're commonly found inside of caves and abandoned buildings and dirty places, just places away from humanity because certain ones just really don't like humans. Now, that being said, if you were a Jinn and you just hated humanity and you hated them to the point where you don't want to be around them, you don't even want to be around humans in the slightest bit, you don't even want the chance of them running into, where are you going to go? Well, the only place on Earth, if you're on Earth and you want to avoid humans to the maximum, is in the bottom of the ocean. That is the place where humans never are. You have more chance of finding humans on the moon than you do in the ocean. So as a Jinn that hates humanity, that doesn't want to be around humans at all, this would be the place to go. Their egos are so large because who they follow. They follow the direction of Iblis. And this ego has got them to the point where they don't want to be around humans. They're too good is the way they see it. They're like, oh, I don't want to live next to humanity at all. We're above them. But they can't go into the heavens, so they have to go into the ocean. This makes a lot of sense. Now to the why. Why is the government telling us about this now? What is their purpose? What are they trying to get out of it? Well, it makes a lot of sense why they would tell us now, because how many people are atheists? Everybody's going to point to the sky and be like, oh, it's a green alien man floating around in a pizza box coming from a different planet to abduct cows and probe rednecks in the middle of the forest. People are just going to point towards some crazy, absurd direction and completely look past religion entirely because so many people are atheists nowadays. So why they're telling us right now makes a lot of sense. But what is their goal? What is their end game? What are they trying to get out of this? Now that is the question that's a little bit more scary. Because it really seems to the point, and I gotta watch my words carefully here, but it seems like they are trying to normalize us. They're trying to make us feel like it's okay, that there is aliens here and it's completely fine. And these unknown things, no, they're not demons, they're not Jinn, they're just aliens, man, they're fine. And it'll make people normalize to the point where they're not going to be worried about them. They're not going to make them want to go away. People are going to be comfortable with these things flying around. I've seen comments and videos all over the place while looking it up for this video, and there was tons of people that were excited for it. They were excited for the aliens to come here, and they're hoping the aliens take over. Now that is a scarier thought, because if they are Jinn, that is the worst case scenario. What's even weirder is almost exactly a year ago, I talked about this on TikTok and got flamed publicly whenever I told everybody this alien sighting that happened in Florida at a Florida mall was a Jinn. Everybody attacked me for this, but it's starting to make more sense day after day. Once again, I have to watch my words carefully, but they might want us to be comfortable. They might want us to be complicit. They might want us to be okay with these things walking around. And they might tell us that these things are extremely intelligent, and they might want us to believe that so they can put them in power. Putting the Jinn in a position of power, working deals with them, allowing them to make decisions based off of their expertise and knowledge is kind of a scary thought. Because if it's an alien, it's some like supreme being, some like genius thing that flies into Earth and has come here to solve all of our problems. Although that may be really nice, but what if it is a Jinn? What if it's not an alien? Now, what's a little bit more fascinating about this conversation is we've seen the effects of individuals who came close to these things. There's a man named Gary Nolan. He is a Stanford medical professor. This man has studied the effects of military service members who have came in contact or came close proximity to these things. And what happens is their brain gets scrambled. It makes them go crazy and insane. In that there is some kind of energy that they use that isn't radiation based, that makes people go insane, that scrambles their brain, and even some of them passed away from this. And we have this. We have hardcore evidence of this. Gary Nolan has been magnificent. I don't know his motives behind this or why he's telling everybody about this, but he's been very straightforward and has provided an unbelievable amount of substantial evidence. So if you guys are interested and you wanted to look further into the subject, that's where I would start. Gary Nolan has provided more than enough for us to understand what's going on here. I appreciate every single one of you guys for watching and listening to my rambles all the time. The support has been massive. It's been mind-blowing. I really don't know what to do with it, but I'm figuring it out as I go. And for some shameless self-promo, I do have beanies and books available. The books will always be on donation. I'll put the link in the description. Thank Allah is out right now. It is a book filled with testimonies, first-hand testimonies. It's not the longest thing yet. Over time, I will continue to expand on it. But it's first-hand testimonies of when God, Allah, has came into people's lives and helped them, has protected them from harm. And also the coolest beanies out. It's about to be cold outside. There's still about 30, 40 left. I don't know the exact number in front of me. Once again, thank you guys all for watching.